All right, so I've been watching a lot of this NBA bubble stuff, and as you remember, Joy and I talked about this a lot. I thought they should have just gone right into the playoffs. I mean, to me, we got a pandemic. Fewer games, fewer tests. Let's get in, boom, let's get out, crown a champ, and go home. But the NBA said, listen, you can't have these guys off 4 months, have them come into playoff intensity. So we're going to have some warm-up games. And I think to myself, yeah, I get it. All right, that makes sense. Let's have some warm-up games. And they kind of rigged this thing in the NBA so somebody could sneak in like a New Orleans or, a Portland. So for that, I think they've done a pretty good job. But here's my takeaway on this whole bubble. I got 3 big takeaways because I've watched almost every team play. Many of the good teams play 3 or 4 times. My first takeaway, the Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks do not care. They're number 1 seeds. Those coaching staffs, those rosters, and those front offices, they don't care. I've watched Milwaukee get beat by the Nets. I've watched the Clippers get beat by the Nets and the Suns. They don't care. By the way, that's right on brand for the Clippers, who didn't care during the regular season. I don't take anything of the Bucks. I don't take anything out of the Clippers. I think they should be favored to get to the NBA Finals. I think Milwaukee is excellent defensively, has a brilliant young coach. They've got good enough players to win it, though I'm not picking them. I don't take anything from the Clippers or Milwaukee. We're playing in a bubble. Home court doesn't matter. All these teams care about is being healthy. So Clippers, Bucks just don't care. My second takeaway is, the Lakers do, they just can't shoot. Sort of a problem in 2020. The Lakers have the worst field goal percentage of any team in the bubble. I'm not joking. They have the worst three-point percentage of any team in the bubble. This is why LeBron James, to me, is the MVP. He is the super glue holding together a lot of odd and past their prime parts. The Lakers can't shoot. And by the way, they're not very good at defending the perimeter as well. To me, this is not a championship team. What it is the world's best basketball player, the world's smartest basketball player, kind of making it work. The great lubricator in the NBA, LeBron, just sort of making it work. But this is not a very good team. I don't want to hear about the number 1 seed in the West. It mattered to them. It didn't matter to the Clippers. My third takeaway is I want no part of Portland. I don't. If I'm in the playoffs in the West, I got no interest playing Portland. Damian Lillard is the best shooter. On most nights, the best player in the bubble. They've got 3 7-footers, so they match up with teams like Milwaukee and Toronto and the Lakers who have size. Gary Trent Jr., who was a nice player at Duke, always a good shooter. Yikes. He looks like Steph Curry. Terry Stotts has been very good for years, very respected. Carmelo Anthony has added harmony and scoring from the wing. Portland, to me, they are going to be the greatest 8th seed in the history of the NBA. Their backcourt could be a nightmare for the Lakers. Gary Trent's emerged. How about Melo? They've got 3 7-footers. I watched Dame drop 51 yesterday. I swear. If he doesn't go to Weber State, if he doesn't play in Portland, if he went to Duke and played for the Knicks, would we all get how good Damian Lillard is? I said last week, is everybody watching him when he plays Westbrook? How much better he is than Westbrook? So those are my 3 takeaways so far in the NBA bubble. Doug Gottlieb joining me now. So this may qualify as, I don't think it qualifies as any hot take. I watch the Lakers, Doug. They can't shoot threes. They can't defend threes. I think I think the Western Conference was a little bit in reboot, restructure mode for most of the regular season. Now we're in the bubble. I look at the Lakers, and I think what you're seeing now is the truth. This is what they are, and I think they're being a little unmasked here.
Well, it's interesting because we've talked about this on my show and when I've hosted for you. I'm not sure the bubble has destroyed some of these businesses. I think it's sped up the process, right? And I think it's happened some in sports. This has sped up the process. Let's not undersell the loss of Avery Bradley.
Yeah.
Rondo's a loss because of experience, and people think playoff Rondo. He hasn't been a very good player in this league in over half a decade, maybe even a decade. Okay. But you do lose Rondo. But when you lose Avery Bradley, who's a 3-point shooter, is your best perimeter defender, is essentially your starting point guard, and was playing his best basketball of his Laker career, just his Laker career, you lose him, and now you're throwing out there Quinn Cook, who I mean, look, Quinn Cook got destroyed by Chris Paul because he's supposed to get destroyed by Chris Paul. Chris Paul's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Quinn Cook was a G Leaguer who's found a way to stick in the NBA. Like, it exposes everything. And the irony to missing that one position is, when LeBron and the Heat lost to the Dallas Mavericks the first year, what has never been discussed is that Mike Bibby was awful at point guard the first 5 games. He was so bad that in game 6, the last game of that NBA season, he didn't even take off the sweats. He didn't play. Okay, he was washed at that point in his career. And if you get exposed badly at that spot, it changes everything. You're right. They don't have enough shot creators. That's one reason that the 3-point shooting is down. They don't have enough guards. This season will likely come to an end sooner rather than later because they couldn't talk Darren Collison out of not retiring because Avery Bradley chose to opt out of playing in the bubble, and because they could not find a way to get enough perimeter players in a league in which you have to have that if you want to succeed at the highest level.
So, when you left college basketball, you were the 7th all-time leading assist guy, meaning that you had teammates, you were the passer, they were the finisher. We all know you couldn't shoot. But needless to say, you were a great distributor, and it's all about cohesion in basketball. You can be Michael Jordan, but you need a Pippen, you need a coach, you need a Kerr, you need a Rodman. You can't do it all, not even LeBron. I look at Embiid and Simmons, and Doug, it's the Hollywood marriage. It looks good on paper, it looks good in a picture, but for some reason it doesn't work. What is your takeaway after now they're both hurt?
You know what's interesting is that we used to think that Simmons' work ethic was going to be his downfall, and Embiid's body was going to be his downfall because of injuries. And now it seems to be a little flipped, right? It's Embiid struggles to play hard every night and to totally be engaged. And Simmons is the one who's had the back injury and now has a knee injury and is out for the season, right? That thing has changed. Look, they're both dynamic talents. They're both all NBA caliber talents. They do struggle to get along with each other, with teammates. I think there's some reasonable frustration between both. But if it's me, I was always on the side of Team Simmons simply for 2 factors. 1, he makes other people better around him. And 2, he hasn't been hurt as much as Embiid. Well, now you take the injury thing aside because he's hurt more than Embiid. And I'm not sure he can make everybody better because of his refusal to shoot jump shots. And so I agree with you. I do think that it's going to be time to break these 2 up. They don't seem to be making each other their best selves. And I think Simmons is the one who's most likely to go.